Thank you for joining me. This is going to be a review of the streaming show Alien Earth. I am maybe going to spoil the movies leading up to this show, but I definitely will not be spoiling anything in this show itself in this particular video. If you would like to hear what I have to say about the individual episodes, I've done a video on each, and the playlist link will be in the description box. So, let's see. That covers whether or not I'm gonna spoil. Other than that, there is the matter that this is rated TVMA, the show, and so will the video be. And right now there is one season and 8 episodes. I am not certain if they are making more. I could kind of see, either way. I will say that if they don't, if there is no continuation to the story here, I personally think this is a satisfying conclusion. I could also see how they could do, more of it, but yeah. And yeah, I absolutely fucking love this show. Goddamn, Noah Hawley, he's so fucking talented. It's unreal. This and Legion are both such amazing, like, Jesus Christ. I would like to watch Fargo as well. Let's see. So the right. Fuck Disney. They need to stand up to Trump more. The Kimmel censorship thing was fucking bullshit. They also need to treat their employees better. So nothing I say in this is meant to like praise Disney the company. In general, companies can eat shit. Now, I am pretty fucking ecstatic at how both Alien and Predator franchises have been handled since Disney got the rights, which I don't give credit to Disney themselves for, like the company for, but the people making important decisions creatively, working on these. But yeah, I do think between, so yeah, focusing specifically on Alien, between Romulus and this show, I do think that the franchise is in good hands, much better. I'm sorry, I really don't think we got that much that was like that really worked that well out of Prometheus and Covenant. Yeah, I think that brings us nicely to the yeah. So basically here we have this. I don't want to give too much away of the story, but yes, the title and a bunch of the promo images and such do point to, yes, there is a threat. There's a one of the sources of tension on the show, and there are numerous, not too many, and none of them get excessive screen time. But one of the sources is the idea that maybe there would be a xenomorph loose on Earth. And I wasn't sure how they were going to make an entire show out of that. I could, you could see how, like, you could fill, feature-length running time with that concept. But it's because there's other things going on here as well. And yeah, the psychological accuracy, authenticity, and level of detail are extremely high. Okay, so taking those in order. Psychological accuracy. This comments on tech billionaires, here trillionaires. There is, yeah, we see somehow capitalism shapes and destroys. And let's see, how do I tiptoe around this? Because I do want for most of this to be a surprise. I don't want to spoil it in this video. I'll just say that there are characters in this that come across as in some ways childlike, and there's some autism coding going on. I do specify coding. I'm not saying that these characters are meant to be on the autistic spectrum. But yeah, and yes, I should specify, I have met a couple dozen autistic people, and yeah, they are not inherently lesser. I'd say the vast majority of the ones I've met, really wonderful people, and that's also what I hear from others. You know, the being on the spectrum does not make you lesser in any inherent way. Some of them, you know, like they are capable of making the wrong choice, same as everybody else, you know. And I really appreciated that on the show. Like, yeah, and that's not a spoiler from, you know, some of it's very early on. You know, it explores both good and bad. You know, it's, again, it's coded, but yeah, you could very much read some of these characters as being representing, not being representing the being on the spectrum, and you see negatives as well as positives. You have to be very careful with. Actually, there's a very talented leftist YouTuber who himself is on the spectrum, called Otterly Noah, who's done several videos talking about yeah, movies that are coded as you know, with characters that are coded as being on the autistic spectrum. And he points out a lot of those are more popular with autistic viewers than movies where a character straight up is autistic, because a lot of the time the latter is not handled very well in mainstream movies, you know. And yeah, there is also stuff that has been read as trans. Not being trans myself, I try to be an ally, but I don't know or understand everything coming from an outside perspective. But yeah, let's see. I'm not sure she's made a spoiler-free video on the show, but if you decide to watch the show, Jessie Gender, another extremely talented leftist YouTuber, she has made at least one video on the show where she reads it as trans allegory, as something on the show as trans allegory, and I think that might cover it for the psychological accuracy. So the authenticity, it really, really feels like, I mean, you know, it's set in a potential future for us, something, you know, and it really makes you, I mean, if I wasn't already far left before watching the show, I'm pretty sure the show would have got me there. Same thing for Legion, actually. But the, yeah, this is a very chilling vision of, yeah, like what Earth might look like in the future if we don't severely restrain capitalism. And I know there are conservatives who can't stand that this show is doing this, and I mean, I've said it before and I'll probably say it again. If you're going to watch these franchises, can you just admit that they are leftist? They've always been leftist. If you can't see that 1979's alien is leftist. I don't know how to talk to you. Like, motherfucker. The problem is caused by a company that treats its workers as disposable. One of the antagonists is literally a representative of the Heartless Corporation. Working class individuals in the movie openly point out that they're not getting paid enough. Their conditions are bad. And, like, yeah, shit. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, it's clearly a leftist movie. Like, if you don't like watching leftist movies and shows, that's fine. Just stick to the stuff that is conservative instead of trying to instead of insisting that the rest of us bend over backwards and, like, you know, stop trying to turn leftist media conservative. We have Alien, Star Wars, let's see, a bunch of Marvel, not all of it. You can have, you know, Rambo and Die Hard and others, I'm sure, but those are Conan, you know. There are some really great movies in there. Like, I do think that there's a lot to love about the original Conan, the original Die Hard, the original First Blood, you know, which does also have, you know, some leftist stuff, but it's, you know, certainly the movie series overall is more conservative. Let's see, I think it was Renegade Cut did a really great video talking about how, you know, in some ways the first, even the first Rambo movie has some conservative leaning rather than leftist. Yeah, you know, I don't understand why you can't have enough in those, why you feel the need to try to change the politics of stuff that just wasn't meant for you. Like, just, yeah. So I think that covers the but yeah, just there's some really great material here about yeah, capitalism. And yeah, the level of detail, you know, it creates this very credible, like, you know, these movies have always been this sort of, it's this cyberpunk vision, you know, like, yes, it's technically set in our future, it's not our present, but it's not like sunshine and rainbows, you know, because capitalism, like, yes, technology has improved, but, you know, like, again, you know, Alien 1979, if you need another thing, it's basically truckers in space. You know, that's what we got out of faster than light travel. We can now go to distant, you know, worlds. What's it going to be used for? Well, truckers are now transporting stuff from outer space, and they spend a bunch of time in cryo sleep. And so, like, you know, it's not actually better. It's just more advanced, but the same, you know, same shit, different toilet. You know, futuristic toilet, but still a toilet. Still shitty. And I really appreciate that this does, you know, that's another thing. I swear I am not going to make this entire fucking video just criticizing Prometheus and Covenant. But one of the things about Prometheus is that the ship does not feel... shit, I saw someone... God damn it, there was someone who put it perfectly. The ship in Prometheus felt to them like a giant iPod. I think that was how they worded it, you know? Like it didn't feel like, oh, it's just, you know, and I get, you know, okay, yes, it's not quite truckers in space, but then at the same time, at times the movie seems to suggest like it's why are these scientists so, you know, annoyed at getting to do something that like it would seem like isn't that their dream? You know, like it just so many fucking problems with that movie. Anyway, yes. Yeah, here the future feels like the future imagined by, you know, the late 70s, you know. And again tempered with, you know, yeah, it's advanced compared to us, but it's, you know, just it's used for something that we wouldn't, you know, it's not exciting, you know, it's just making some rich asshole even richer, you know, letting them abuse the people that they see as beneath them even more. Already a huge problem today, it was a huge problem in 1979, and it's only gotten worse. uh, let's see, the tone does a really great job balancing. There are some conversations about ethics that, in the hands of someone who wasn't Noah Hawley, might end up feeling corny. This is the same, you know, there's similar in Legion. You know, he just manages to make it fucking work. Like this does not get as uh, LSD as Legion. That wouldn't really work for this. But yeah, in both we have. Yes, I've made my point. Let's see. I think that pretty well brings us to. But yeah, it is genuinely. Yes, it. I should go a little bit more into it. So I mentioned in my review of Covenant that clearly Ridley Scott was jealous that he didn't get to do the sequel to Blade Runner. This does a much better job of implementing Blade Runner-like conversations, and I do 100% appreciate that within the universe of Alien, it makes a certain amount of sense. You know, there wasn't really room for a lot of discussion in that first movie because it happens so late into the movie that we find out, you know, I've seen, there are people who don't like the fact that the movie doesn't even tell us that there are, you know, synthetics in the world of the movie until we find out that Ash is a goddamn robot, you know. I don't think that's a bad thing, but yeah, there wasn't room for discussion of the ethics of that in that first movie. And that is also, I mentioned that in my Romulus review. That movie really fucking hates autistic coded people. Jesus Christ. Like Ash, wow, that is a negative depiction, which really rubs me the wrong way. That might be like one of the only places where it feels conservative. Yeah. Vaccinate your kids. And if you'd really rather have a dead kid than an autistic one, don't have more kids. You shouldn't have had any to begin with. I think that brings us to, but yes, the, you know, this spends more time with, you know, humanoid, you know, yeah, uh, sure, let's go with the word robot, you know. And yeah, we get really, really incredible discussion about, you know, what is it to be human? Where does the line go between human and something, and you know, a humanoid robot, you know, a robot that in some ways very much resembles a human, where the ethical implications of creating robots, you know, what rights do they have? Some incredible stuff. Like, just really, really, it gets so deep. Yeah. And that is, of course, also, you know, it's a major theme in Cyberpunk, is the, you know, robots and such. Yeah, the dialogue is also really, really solid. Everyone has a very distinct voice. It's one of those, you could read a line of dialogue, not, you know, unattributed, and there's a pretty decent chance, a lot of the time, maybe most, you'd be able to deduce which character would say. Like, hypothetically, let's say you watched at least one episode of the show, and you got, like, someone told you, oh, hey, by the way, I read an early draft of the script for this episode, and one of the characters said the following. Based on that quote, yeah, you might just be able to tell, oh, that must have been that particular character, because none of the others would have put it exactly like that. The direction is very strong. It never loses, let's see, focus. How ironic, don't you think? And like, there are a number of elements in play, and at no point did it feel like any of them were just forgotten. There's one thing, like, my hypothetical metaphorical hat comes off to the level of restraint, the time between the setup and the payoff, and then the fact that the payoff was actually worth the wait. Like, fuck me. Like, and we, you know, I've mentioned it in other videos. We are living in a time where there's a lot of media being made that does not trust our attention span at all. And it is in some ways true that there are, you know, for various reasons that I'm not going to go into for forever here. Yes, a lot of us have decreased attention spans. I do want to note, my attention span was already, you know, not the best long before. Like, I remember before the internet. You know, I remember back when stuff didn't seem to go quite as fast, and we didn't constantly have, like, notifications and short videos and all this. Anyway, but the see what I mean about focus? Yeah. They do such a good job of, like, it's one of those things where there's so many elements that they can tap into, and sometimes I already mentioned, some time might pass between, but it never feels like they've just forgotten that they had a certain thing. Like, it's this wonderful thing. Like, Alfred Hitchcock, obviously, it's so fucked up that he treated some of the actresses he worked with so bad. I am absolutely not making excuses for that. But I do think he had a point when he said that showing a scene of people talking and then there's an explosion just gives a jolt, whereas if you communicate to the audience, there's a bomb under the table, and then you show several minutes of people at the table talking, then you have suspense. And yeah, this show understands that. It does not feel the need to just immediately, you know, go to the furthest extreme. And to have, you know, yeah, there are so many different things that you don't know exactly which one they're going to use next. So even when you feel like it's just, something's about to happen, you don't know quite what. The cinematography and editing are masterful. There are some some camera angles and camera movement here that is just glorious. Some of the best in the Alien franchise. And yeah, let's see. I guess okay. Yes, I'm doing my ranking of the Alien. Yeah, everything live action Alien at the end of this video, so I'm not going to talk about that at this point. Yeah, as far as editing, they do some great stuff where they'll sometimes cut from a dramatic statement to something else, and there's some kind of dreamlike editing. Again, nowhere near as much as Legion, and an appropriate amount, I think. And yeah, I love all the episodes, and I felt like they did a good job making each feel distinct. When you have episodic storytelling, you may want to avoid, and not always, not necessarily, but you may want to avoid having it feel like it's just a really long movie. It can be very effective if each episode feels just somewhat distinct. And with this, it wouldn't work if they were too distinct, and it never really does that. But yeah, each episode does. Yes, I've made my point. Moving on. Production value is through the roof. Like, it feels expensive. It doesn't feel like they cut any corners. The set design, locations, costumes, and makeup all feel, yeah, cinematic. And they tell us a lot about the various characters and the situation, the circumstance. Let's see, the sets, for example, feel at home in the universe created by the movies, especially the first three, and are also ones that we haven't quite seen before, which is important. You know, it needs to, you know, if people are going to watch 8 fucking episodes, you know, like I don't know the exact number of hours, but if I had to guess, I think it's 5 or 6. That's a lot to ask people. Yeah, I would argue it offers so much new that yeah, and yeah, it shows us parts we haven't seen before. You know, the movies very pointedly avoid Earth outside of, you know, like the very very end of Resurrection. Isn't that what it's called? Alien Resurrection. That's it. Yeah. It ends on Earth, and apparently the original script had a scene on Earth. But we don't see what Earth looks like. They say some, yeah, yeah. They crash land there by the very end, and you know, maybe if they had made a direct sequel, or if they ever do, maybe it would be set on Earth. And then we of course have the AVP movies, which do take place on Earth and ultimately don't do that much super interesting with it. It's just like kind of obvious, like, yeah, they're killing people on Earth, same as they were killing people in various, you know, in on ships and what's it called again? Colonized planets and shit in the other movies. Like, okay, you know, you didn't really have anything new to add. This show does. This show does not just say, you know, it doesn't just plop down, maybe there'll be a xenomorph on Earth, and then expect us to clap. Like, no, it fucking earns it. I think that might just about cover. The music is incredible. A lot of original score composed, and yeah, it feels, you know, it fits with the scores of, I think, especially the first 2 movies. And then they also use really great needle drops every so often. The sound design is spectacular, incredibly important for horror, perhaps especially when the source of horror is not quite human. And it's always been a really, really big part of, like, throughout the, let's see, I guess it's especially the first two movies, really do, like, there's noises, there's certain sounds that you really think of as belonging to the various stages of the xenomorph. The yeah, and the including the queen. Um, you know, the various games tend to incorporate them, for example, and yeah, you can hear some of these sound effects and just immediately be like, that's a xenomorph. You might even be able to say, oh, well, that's definitely a chest burster. That's what that, that makes that noise. Oh, that's facehugger. That's a queen, and that's a drone. Like, and yeah, they do a fantastic job here. And this is when I get to one of the most fun aspects here, because when I mentioned the sound design, and I mentioned that this show has xenomorphs, and you might be thinking, well, okay, I mean, we've already heard xenomorphs. The xenomorphs are not the only aliens that might, that there is some threat might end up free on Earth in this show. And that's I want to make sure I give credit to, because this observation I first heard from Council of Geeks, I want to say is her channel name, Vera on that channel, in one of her videos on this, pointed out, one of the things that made the original movie so effective was that we'd never seen a xenomorph before. And the sequels each introduce at least one new variant, but completely recapturing that has not been, they've not had the greatest success across the sequels. But here we do actually have these other, yeah, and we're back to this, like, there's so many moments on this show, because I don't think I want to say exactly how many, but there's more. I'll go with more than two. There's more than two alien creatures on this show that are not xenomorph, and they genuinely went back and looked at, well, what is it that really works? Like, what pokes at some of our deepest anxieties, like the sort of what's the word, instinctual, where we just, like, we see or hear something, and immediately everything in our lizard brain is screaming, kill it, that thing has to die, or we will die. Maybe not just a couple of us, but like our entire species could be wiped out by that fucking thing. The xenomorph was in part based on various, let's see, I think it was it insects or spiders or something like that. There's nothing on Earth, as far as we know. I don't know. We haven't explored all of under the under the sea. Not everything's better down where it's wetter. Take it from me. But as far as we know, nothing on Earth that is the size of a human or bigger that can do these fucking things. But yeah, like laying an egg inside the body of another creature, killing that creature when the thing comes out. Yeah, there are, yeah, again, I forget if it's insects or spiders or what, but yeah. And yeah, this one goes back and looks at, well, what else is there? What creatures do we have on Earth that are thankfully not human-sized, or maybe they live so deep undersea that we are not likely to, you know, come into direct contact with them. And yeah, I I am deeply impressed by what they came up with. Uh, the nightmare fuel on this show is just fucking unreal. Like I've talked about them in my spoiler videos. I do not want to give them away. I thankfully did not have them spoiled for me, and I refuse to spoil them for anyone watching. I just, yeah. Uh, I'm hoping that the things I lay out, that I do talk about in this video, will help convince you. Because, like, if you hold, let's see, the first two movies, I would argue, in high regard, you're likely to find something to absolutely fucking love in this show. I think that, but yeah, so, you know, if I haven't already made it clear, yes, the sound design for the new Aliens is also just fucking amazing. Like, in case you needed new sound effects for your worst nightmares, this show will provide. Um, yeah, very hefty servings. The characters are really, really well done. I felt something for every major character. For at least one, it is contempt in a very, like, intense way. There's a character on this show. I don't think I want to give away exactly who, but the character is a CEO, a tech trillionaire, and they are just the fucking worst. And the show's doing its job well because we're meant to hate them. We're, you know, this is like, in real life, we should not hold in high regard tech billionaires. They are exploiting people and, like, making the world a worse place. They're worsening, you know, some, yeah, certain things that they're already big problems. They're worsening them for short-term profits, you know. And yeah, I really appreciate, because, like, it's not the first time that in one of these we've gotten a face, name, even, to, you know, we've met a couple of Waylands over the course of the movies. And yeah, they are very selfish, egotistical, harmful. So, you know, rich people in real life as well. Um, the one, the CEO on this show, uh, looked at those other ones, said, "Hold my beer," and just, yeah, it sets a new standard. They are going, if I don't know if it's going to be a goal, but if one of the future official alien projects seeks to outdo how just fucking despicable this character is, they have their work cut out for them. I'm not sure it's possible. And yeah, we have characters where for a while we're not sure exactly how we feel. It's like, is this person good or bad? And, like, some of the things they do are good, some of the things they do are bad. And I mean, there's a lot of people in real life. Like, we are all complicated, you know? So I really appreciate, I love when shows do this, actually have us, like, yeah, try to actually figure out, well, how do I feel about this? And yeah, they let's see. That was also a thing on Legion, and yeah, reminds me somewhat of the movies of David Cronenberg. Um, yeah, I think more media should have characters where we aren't quite sure. Yeah, and the yeah, the acting is fantastic. I hardly knew the cast here. Basically, like Timothy Oliphant and the guy who played Nemec on Andor, I think are the only two that I know. I want to watch more stuff by everyone in the cast. Like I was deeply impressed by everyone. They do such phenomenal acting. Um, yeah, every step of the way, I was just completely enthralled. I wanted to see more of these characters, and it's one of those things. Like it's bittersweet. Like if this really is the last we get to see of them, I'll miss them. But I do also really appreciate, yeah, like it it's a full story. They didn't do that bullshit thing of being like, well, you better give us another season or we're gonna hold this storyline hostage. You'll never know what happened to these characters if you don't give us more episodes. And it's like, I really appreciate it. All these shows in recent years actually, I know it's still a problem. I hear, let's see, is it Netflix that still fucking cancels shows that people love after one fucking season's like, Jesus Christ. But yeah, a lot of the recent shows that I've seen on Disney Plus, yeah, like not all of them only have one season, but they do frequently end the story in one season, and then if they have another season, they introduce more stuff rather than it feeling like they just didn't have anything more to add. Um, yeah, some of the characters here have to say and do things that to us feel so foreign, but for the character makes sense, and they just fucking nail it. It's I swear, Scout's Honor used to be a scout, was pretty shit at it, eventually got to quit. Scout's Honor, some of these, like, if I didn't know for a fact, these are actors. For some of these characters, I would legit think, I mean, I guess they fucking made a robot for the show. Like, because the performance is so goddamn convincing. Um, I've seen some not love the pacing. Let's see. I think it was specifically like Stories Untold. I'm quite fond of both. Let's see. Like Stories Untold and Like Stories of Old, I think are the two channels. I agree with him on most things. I I don't know that I necessarily disagree with him on the pacing here. I just don't think it like kills the show. And certainly I don't think there's even, in my opinion, there's no episode here that you could just do away with. I know that there's at least one or two that were not super popular, but I think there's always enough there. So, these special effects. There's always... See, I would argue that every single... yeah, every single Alien franchise live action entry has at least one special effect where it's like, ugh. And yeah, I don't know. No reason to buck the trend, I guess. I would say that it doesn't really hurt the show. Same as it doesn't tend to like derail the movie. It's just something that sticks out like a sore thumb. Um, I'm not going to beat around the bush. For a while now, since the third movie, CGI has very, very mixed results in this franchise. They have this unfortunate tendency to at least slightly overuse CG and have the camera on it when it is not ready for prime time. It is not photorealistic. One thing I really do appreciate is that whenever they can feasibly do it, whenever it's practical, the effects are practical. And there's some really wonderful practical effects on here. And sometimes the CG is amazing. I do really appreciate that they tend to not rest the camera on the CG on this show for very long. It might also be like okay, so I mentioned that it doesn't feel like they're like cutting costs as such. When I say that they, the CG on the show, it doesn't hurt the show that they don't rest the camera on the, since it is not always completely convincing. But there are a couple of things that they just, as soon from the third movie onwards, there's always at least something where they really want the xenomorph to do something that there's no way for them to do without CG, so we end up with CG. And I mean, sometimes it does look really good. Let's see, I guess it's been a year or more since I last watched Prometheus. I don't remember there being, at least not very much CG in that didn't look particularly good. And yeah, there's some truly some visceral gore and violence on this show, and when it's CG, it does tend to be great. When it's practical, it is fucking breathtaking. It's just like, yeah, some of the things you see on this show, goddamn, yeah, just so much where you just want them to fucking kill it with fire. Let's see. So, one issue that this franchise also sometimes struggles with is it action? Is it horror? Is it both? This does have some action. I don't know that I would personally really classify this as an action show. I would argue it is primarily horror with a little bit of action. And I think we can probably all agree, the action part, it's because, like, I mean, if you're going to make an Alien thing and you're doing, like, tribute stuff, you're probably going to do a little bit of tip and that to Aliens, And yeah, I don't think that it like takes over. I would argue, right? Let's see. See, I'm not sure. No, it doesn't really spoil. There's a couple of visuals in it that maybe turn it on and close your eyes. But I can never remember his full channel name, and our wrists are too fucked right now to check. I believe his channel name is Science Fiction with Damien Walter. He did a video talking about it. It's changed title at least once. So let's see. I certainly believe it has. The last time I checked, it had Alien Earth in the title. So if you go to his channel and search for an Alien Earth video, I think he's only. Oh wait, did he make two? Maybe he made two. Whether he made one or more, I've watched the ones. I think I've watched every video he's done on the show, and they were all excellent. But yes, I don't personally think that the fan service takes over. There is definitely at least a little bit. It's the kind of stuff, if you haven't watched the movies in a while, you'll be fine. It's not gonna take you out of it, in my opinion. That was my experience, at least. Yeah, I can't judge 100%, but since I've watched the movies, that is definitely one thing. I definitely do think you should watch at least the first movie before watching this show. If you're coming into that, I mean, if you've suffered through, I've already spoiled several of the movies, but and if you don't remember it, maybe rewatch it. But the first movie, does show certain things that this show would spoil if you haven't watched that movie. But yeah, the references don't take over in my opinion, and I think so I already mentioned, I've talked about how some of the horror comes from these aliens, including, not limited to the xenomorph. Some of it also comes from the robot stuff, and yeah, I thought they did a really fantastic job on that. And some shit that's just like fucking capitalism, the criticism of capitalism really is spot on. I wonder if everything, so far it's 2 for 2 of shows on Disney Plus that the actor who plays Nemec on Andor is in. This and Andor, critical of capitalism. I mean, I'm here for it if that's how, yeah. I know, I see patterns where there probably aren't any. 2 is not a pattern. It could be a coincidence. I think, yeah, and the sci-fi also. These. I think some of what works the best in this franchise is when they try to kind of guess at what might the future look like. And this, again, I don't know, maybe I've already made that point in this video, but I do think this show does a really great job of that. And they do that wonderful thing that, again, this franchise has been good at, where characters don't feel the need to stop and explain technology. We just see it in action and we can deduce, oh, that's that thing. Gotcha. That's something I've always really appreciated. I get that some sci-fi and other fiction, other genres of fiction need it, but sometimes it can just be like you spend way too much of a movie or show just listening to stuff being explained. And yeah, this franchise and Star Wars have always been pretty good at that. And I think, yeah, I think that might pretty well cover. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, certainly I will say the very start of this does make it feel like, oh wow, we really are just doing Alien and or Aliens, just, certain aspects changed. I think the first, I don't want to give away how much, but the part that fits what I just described, which, starts at the start, and yeah, I won't say how long it lasts, but it's not just a few seconds. I think that was there to reassure those who were worried about this straying too far. Because, I'm not the only person who didn't love... In my defense, it's been a little bit since I brought it up. In a negative way, at least. Prometheus and Covenant. Yeah, some people really wanted something closer to that. That was part of what Covenant was saying, I believe the following is a direct quote from Ridley Scott. You want aliens? I'll give you fucking aliens. That's what he said after a number of people criticized Prometheus, and that's why Covenant is the way it is. And yeah, I think that is the idea. You know, we've seen that elsewhere as well, including other Disney Plus stuff. You know, first episode, you know, just compare the first episode of the first season of What If to the second episode, you know. Yeah, I think, you know, proof of concept, just reassuring the viewer, maybe also some of the investors, you know, after that, they start doing things that are different from the movies, and I think in a good way. But yeah, you know, they're building goodwill in the audience, and then they start doing stuff that is, you know, yeah, very very different, and but fits within. You know, like I already mentioned, Blade Runner. I mean, yeah, these are the two big sci-fi franchises that Ridley Scott he directed the first movie in each. It did take a little while before Blade Runner became you know, but before it got a sequel. Ended up being a legacy sequel, but it it does make sense to take some of Blade Runner and put it in Alien. You know, you got your peanut butter and my chocolate, etc. Who just strolls down the street just eating peanut butter like that anyway? So the opening of the first episode show these short clips, and yeah, there's some storytelling going on there, and each subsequent episode will use the very opening as a sort of previously on, and the score and the graphics from, you know, and the title gradually appearing, like they feel like one of those teaser trailers for some of the Alien movies, you know. I think that is very much intentional, and I think it's a really great choice. It's this thing of like, you know, just telling the viewer you're gonna get more of this, you know, now. This is what you're in for, kind of thing. And I think that might cover, yeah, that pretty well gets us to the ranking. So I'm just gonna real quick, let's see, there we go. Yeah, so yes, there we go. There. Yes, I've made a ranking. Not everybody's gonna agree, but I've made a ranking, worst to best. Every Alien franchise movie and now also show. AVP1, Requiem, Covenant, Alien 3, Prometheus, Resurrection, Alien, Aliens, and Alien Earth. Yes, I know. I don't put this at the top lightly, but that is where I feel it belongs, you know, after very careful consideration. And yes, I do remember the movies. You know, I watch them every so often. I just realized I forgot to include... How did I completely forget to include Romulus? Let's see. Yeah. I place it above Resurrection and below Alien. Yeah. That just leaves the... Yes. That leaves one thing. So, in closing, I rate this 9 horrifying, invasive alien species that need to stay the fuck away from me. You got that? And incredibly compelling explorations of what it even means to be human, where the line goes out of 10.